Thank you, Glenn. My name is Scott Grant. I'm an alcoholic coming to you from Afton, Tennessee. I live real close to Glenn, so as he said, we get to spend a little bit of time together. He's in my innermost circle. I'll start by saying my sobriety date is June 21st of 1995, which is 29 years, 6 months, 25 days, or 10,801 days. But who's counting? I guess I am. Yeah, just one day at a time. Um, very fortunate to be part of the Lunch Bunch as my home group, which means I get to see Glenn at least 5 days a week. Uh, he's a pillar of our community and obviously great sobriety. If you want to see what it's like to be active in sobriety, follow Glenn for a day. You'd be exhausted. So that being said, I was born in Portland, Maine, where there's not a whole lot to do up there in Portland, Maine. About 7, 8 months a year. It's drizzly and dreary and beautiful state to look at in postcards, but tough to live there. The weather's kind of harsh. I'll start real quick with just a brief synopsis. Came from a normal family, mother and father married for 67 years when my dad passed. One brother, three sisters. Went through the Portland school system, so my speech may not be the best because I did learn from them. But I'll tell you that after graduating high school, I found that it was a lot of fun and easier to fit in if I just drank with all the other guys. I didn't really start drinking until late in life. I tried at the age of 14 or 13, promptly got sick and said, this isn't for me, but I found other things, some dry goods that entered my life. And I'll leave that out of my story just to say that I did go down that rabbit hole as well. So I graduated high school and things started to get pretty bad in my town for me. It's bad when they start knocking on the door to see if you're home when something happens in your town. My parents were pretty much fed up with me and said, you need to change your life and do something. My dad says, you're either going in the service or you're going back to school. I didn't want to go to school, so I joined the Army. After being in boot camp for a couple of weeks, I realized I probably made a grave mistake because now they're telling me what to do. And I don't like to follow orders. I don't know any alcoholic that says following orders is a good thing. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. We do that when we get desperate. I spent about 11 and a half weeks in the Army. I have screws in my ankle, so my ankle kept blowing out. And they came to me one day and said, look, you're not fit for service. You sign this paper, we'll give you a general discharge. You can go home. Sounded good to me, and I did. I went back to Portland, Maine, and picked up right where I left off, which was just partying and getting in a lot of trouble. Again, parents came down on me and says, you got to do something. I went to college and realized college is pretty much a big party. Graduated college with a program or degree, and I'm trying to speed this through so I don't spend a whole lot of time on what happened, but I was headhunted to work for a national defense company, and I worked there for about 6 months. They put me on third shift as a computer programmer. And what happens when you party like I did, and you drank like I did, and you had to get up and somehow go to third shift, a lot of times you find yourself still drunk, or at least on your way there, and missing work. So as I called an emergency meeting at work, I knew I was about to get fired. I said, I quit. Why would I do this? I went to Marco Island, Florida, and I never went back. When I got to Marco Island, Florida, I did the great thing that some alcoholics do, which is that geographical cure. I'm just going to change everything. I'm not going to drink. I'm just going to buckle down and get down there. I think that lasted for 2 days. Then I found myself within a week in a clique of all the people that like to drink and party like I did. So to keep that up, I decided that this is a great little vacation town and maybe I should be working at a bar. I quickly became a bartender, which is a great job if you're an alcoholic and want to get free drinks, because everybody was buying me drinks, especially when you're closing down the bar and you're in control of the tap. So I had that job for a little bit, and obviously I couldn't show up at some point, and the owner came to me and said, Scott, it's probably time we parted ways. I was unsure what to do, but I left that job and kind of hung around just partying, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And the best thing that happened to me at that point was my parents had come home and said, look, you're 24 years old, 23 years old, living at home and you're not working, you need to get out. Obviously, with nowhere to go and nothing to do, I decided that I would find some lady that would accept me for all my faults. Fast forward to I had a cousin that lived in that town. She set me up on a blind date with a girl. We met at a bar. I was, I remember it like it was yesterday. As I was drinking 4 fingers of Absolute with a little bit of Midori on top just to color it, this girl that I was set up with was standing there drinking her beer. My sister, I should mention, was the waitress at the time. She came by for the third time, and I asked for another Absolute and orange juice, and she brought it. She asked the blind date if she would like another beer, and she said no. As a matter of fact, you can take this one back. She had drank half the beer and sent it back. I was perplexed. So by the fifth or sixth drink, and she ordered an iced tea. I figured it was a Long Island iced tea. I didn't know it was a regular iced tea. I didn't know they made regular iced tea that you could have in a bar. I thought Long Island iced tea. All right. She switched up. Here we go. This is going to be a great night. Well, little did I know it was a regular iced tea. So 6 or 7 drinks in me, I said to her, is there something wrong? You're not having a good time? She goes, oh, no, I'm having a great time. I said, I can't help but notice you sent back that beer. And, the red flag came up for me that I quickly ignored because I was pretty much drunk. She said, yeah, I was starting to feel it. That's why I sent it back. I don't know about you guys, but that's why I drank, right? I want to feel it. I want to get drunk. I want to throw up. I want to make an ass of myself. I want to forget everything and take stuff over. Well, that wasn't her. I believe my higher power was working in my life back then because he gave me that great sign that I quickly ignored and said, well, this is a challenge. Let's see how this plays out. Now, fast forward about 3 months later, I'm living with her, and we spent a year and a half together in her apartment. She had this beautiful place, and I'm living in an apartment. She comes home one night and says, I need you to move out. I said, but why? And I had taken a job selling cars and was pretty successful at it. Well, in selling cars, you work a lot of hours and you party a lot. So I was pretty much feeling no pain every night when I went home. And on my days off, she couldn't find me because I was buried in a bottle somewhere. When she said I needed to move out, she says, you drink too much. I said, you met me in a bar. You know how I drink. I don't understand. Well, she didn't drink. That was, again, my higher power showing me what I needed to do because I promptly left there with nowhere to go. I moved in with my sister back on Marco Island, which is 20 miles away, and said, all right, now I can drink the way I want to drink. And I started drinking pretty heavily. And then I found out that she had moved on and had a new boyfriend. And, that's the kiss of death for a guy that breaks up with a girl that he thinks he's in love with. What I thought I was in love with was a lifestyle that I could drink and party and hang out at her house and not have to pay rent and all that fun stuff. Well, as soon as I found that she was with someone else, I realized I needed to get back into that relationship. And I hounded her, and she's literally said to me, Scott, you have a problem. I was talking to a friend of mine, and they said, you might want to try Alcoholics Anonymous. Or she says, you might want to try AA. And I said, what's AA? She said, Alcoholics Anonymous. So why on earth would I do that? As well, if you find yourself drinking all the time, like when you lived with me, you might want to look at it. Maybe they can help you with your drinking. I did not want to go to Alcoholics Anonymous. I'll tell you this much. She ended up taking me to my first meeting a few nights later. She walked in with me. I sat down. I remember it like it was yesterday. And keep in mind, this is 30 years ago. So there was still smoking and ashtrays and cigarette breaks during the meeting. And it was a different time. I walked in and I sat down, and I sat in, denial row in the back seats, the cheap seats. This was in Naples, Florida. They had couches. So I sat in the couches behind everybody that sat at the tables. And they went around the room and they asked if there was anybody new. It was pretty evident that I was new. And I watched this person, and I think what they asked for was visitors or newcomers. And I watched this person stand up to say, I'm visiting from wherever they were from. And then the next person beside me said, I'm new, first time to this meeting. And then for whatever reason, I stood up and I said, my name's Scott, and I'm an alcoholic, and I'm brand new. And the tears flew down my face. It was the first time in my life that I admitted that I was an alcoholic. I didn't know it. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to stop drinking. I just wanted the girl that was to my left to take me back into her life. Fortunately, I had caused enough havoc that she didn't want me back. She just wanted what was best for me. And by planting that seed, she left. Well, I hung around for a little bit, and then I did what I regret today, but it makes me who I am. I got a sponsor that was just like me. And he said, these other four guys that are young like you, I was 25. These other four guys that are young like you need to stick together. So I used the fellowship, not the program. And we went to bars and we played pool, but we didn't drink. And we went and watched football games, but we didn't drink. And we hung out and went other places, went out to eat, but we didn't drink. I used them as a sponsor instead of working the steps. This was my posse. These are people that they're doing it, I can do it, and whoever falls off, we're in trouble. Well, I'm here to tell you that there was 5 of us. One of them, my good friend, was just up visiting me. He's 28 years sober. The other 3, 2 of them committed suicide, and 1 got sick. Brutal program, brutal time in my life. Well, I hung around just long enough to meet the woman that I'm married to today, but we did not stay dated. We dated for a little bit. And I went back out and had bought a home. And I was working at this car dealership. I bought a home and I asked her if she wanted to move in with me. We weren't engaged. I just said, you want to move in with me and see where this goes? She said, sure. And I was drinking, doing other stuff. And I was lying to people around me. I was supposed to pick up my 1-year medallion, but I had been drinking for a little bit. And I told my girlfriend at the time that I'll meet you at our home group, because I had a home group and it was a live and sober home group in Naples, Florida. I'll meet you at the home group, gonna have a cake, celebration and all that. She says, okay, great. I'll get dressed up. I'll bring change of clothes. I'm going to go straight from my job there. And I'll see you there. Well, you probably all can guess what happens. I didn't go. I couldn't stand in front of these people and lie to them and tell them that I was sober and pick up a year chip when I wasn't. The guilt was killing me. So that night, when I finally got home, it was like 2 a.m. I expected all her clothes to be cleaned out, the house to be empty, and they weren't. She wasn't home. I think I got home at 12. She came home at like 2. She went out with her sponsor and hung out with some of her girlfriends. She came home and I was, in no right mind to try to have a conversation. But a moment of clarity came to me as if God himself came into the room and said, Scott, you need help. You need to stop this. And I said, I didn't expect to see you here. Of course, I didn't say it that politely. I was pretty belligerent. I figured you would have gone. And she says, I love you and I don't want to go anywhere and you need help. What do you want to do? And I said, take me to rehab. So she took me down to the Willow Treatment Facility in Naples, Florida for a rehab. And if any of you know Naples, Florida, it's a very wealthy area. And the rehab treatment center they had their own gym and trainers and all this fun stuff. So I checked into this place at 2:30 on a Friday morning, and I start telling jokes to the intern people. And they're not laughing. They're taking my vitals and they're telling me, you're going to sleep in that room over there. And I look in that room and there's 4 other cots and 3 of the guys I know because they're from the area and they're in and out of the program all the time. And they said, why don't you go in there and try to get some sleep? Well, I was ready to pass out anyway. So I went into the room and I slept and I said, well, what do we do? And they informed me that my counselor wouldn't be there till Monday. I said, well, what do we do on the weekends? They said, oh, we have a movie room and there's a little restaurant that we go to and there's a hot tub. And I said, wow, this sounds great. The treatment facility. This is wonderful. So I spent Saturday and Sunday hanging out with my friends and drying out and trying to tell jokes and admit how great my life was going, that I just needed a little break from reality for a little bit. Really what I needed was some time off of work because I'm working too much. If I didn't work so much, I wouldn't drink and party as much as I am. Well, that didn't help. Monday morning, 6:30 in the morning. I'm sitting there. They're taking my vitals for the day. And they said, your counselor is here. It's Hilda. She wants to see you in her office. And the guy that I've been friends with for the last 48 hours that I know from around town says, oh my God, you have Hilda. I said, what's that mean? She's a 6'6" German woman. They call her Hilda the Hun. You're in for it. I said, oh, geez. I walk into this little office. It's more of a closet. It has a door, one desk, one seat, and books piled as high as you could see. And she says, you're the new guy, Scott. I says, I am. I put on my best car salesman smile. I said, yeah, I am. I'm really excited to be here. You're Hilda, right? She goes, yeah. She goes, have a seat. There's no chairs. Where do I sit? She goes, you can sit on the floor. You know what? I'll just stand. She said, no, you need to sit. So tell me about yourself. I said, well, you probably noticed outside there's a brand new Honda. Well, I'm a finance director for a local car dealership, and they give me a new car every month. So that's my demo out there. And she goes, oh. I said, yeah, I don't know how long this is. This is what, 30 days, 21 days? I only need like 10, and then I can get out of here. And I'm pretty sure they'll leave the car there for 10 days. She goes, okay, go on. I said, well, I got this great girlfriend, my fiance. She actually brought me here. Her name is Lynn, and I just bought a house. As a matter of fact, today they're going to deliver a hot tub. I bought it at Recreational Factory Warehouse, the biggest hot tub they make. They're going to deliver it at 2. Do you think I could get out for a couple hours to go home and make sure that it goes on the spot that I need it to? And she said, well, let's talk about that in a minute. Go ahead. Tell me about yourself. I said, well, I'm 26 years old, and I've been in and out of AA, and I know all about the program, and I know all about the 12. I had a sponsor, great guy, a lot like me, and we grew up doing the same things. And I was sober almost a year. Supposed to get my year medallion, but just oh, it's just this work. I work so much. She said, oh, okay. She goes, do you know where you are? And I said, yeah, absolutely. I'm at the Willow Treatment Center. Well, she gets up and she shuts the door and she locks it. And I thought, this is not good. She goes, what do you do for a living? I said, well, sell cars, finance director. She goes, yeah, I could tell. I said, what's that supposed to mean? She goes, you have no idea. You're trying to con a con man. I said, Hilda, you got that all wrong. That's not what I'm trying to do. You asked me about what's going on. She says, okay, let me clue you in. I didn't park next to a brand new Honda. They repossessed that. Matter of fact, they pretty much told me you don't have a job when you get out of here. That little girl, Lynn, that dropped you off, she called me this morning. She called over the weekend, all upset. I met with her. She's already moved out of your house. They're not delivering you a hot tub. As a matter of fact, when we leave here, you have to go down to the front to talk to the financial advisor because this isn't free. And they're going to put a lien on your house to pay for this. I said, excuse me? She goes, son, you're in a mental institution. The doors are locked. You don't get to leave until I say you get to leave. You've lost control of your life. This is your wake-up call. You got 3 things. You're either going to get sobered up, they're going to lock you up, or you're going to get covered up. I went from life is great and things are going well, and oh my God, and my best car salesman will smile and con, and so, oh Jesus, what did I do? Right then and there, I realized I was an alcoholic. I'd said it before, but I didn't know it. It didn't mean anything. And she said some of those catchphrases, after you take the first drink, do you find you can't stop and you have to have more? Yeah, I do. Do you sometimes come to in other places and not sure how you got there? Yeah, I do. Do you think drinking is causing you problems in your life? Yeah, it is. Well, you might be one of us. Why don't you lose all that you think you know and give this a try and let's look at Scott and figure out what's going on in his life. That was not what I wanted. I said, okay. I spent 20 something days inpatient, and then I did outpatient for another 20 something days. It changed my life. I all of a sudden surrendered to the fact that I can't drink. And it's not that I can't drink the rest of my life. I can't drink today. I just can't do it today. See, because I got hung up on that. And I sponsor some guys now, and especially the new guys, and they get hung up on that. Like, So I got to do this for the rest of my life? No, you just got to do it today. I didn't understand that. I thought, if you take alcohol away from me, how am I going to have fun? How am I going to fit in? How am I going to take care of all these fears that I have? How am I going to celebrate when the times are good? And how am I going to drown my misery when the times are bad? I didn't know. But I worked through the 12 steps. When I left that place, Hilda said to me that probably the thing that saved my life, when you get picked up out front, you need to go straight to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. And before you leave that meeting, you need to leave with a sponsor. My girlfriend picked me up at 11:30. We drove straight to a noon meeting, walked into the meeting. We sat down. I heard this guy speak or share. I said, oh my God, it's like Hilda called him and said, this guy's coming. This is what you need to say. He got up after he spoke. He says, sorry, guys, I got to go to work. And he walked out the door and I chased him. I said, my name is Scott. I'm an alcoholic. Just got out of rehab today. I need a sponsor. And he says, I'll be your sponsor. What are you willing to do? And I said, I'll do anything. He goes, I could tell. I said, what do you mean? He goes, I don't know if you noticed, but that's a gay meeting. And you walked in with a woman on your arm. I said, I had no idea. Doesn't matter. He goes, good. It doesn't matter. We're all struggling to do the same thing, and that's to stay sober and to help each other. So that guy took me through the 12 steps. And he took me through them as the book lays out. He didn't go through his version. He didn't say, he said what I needed to hear, which is, if you don't do this, you will die. Won't be tomorrow. It might be. But if you're anything like the rest of us, it'll be a long, painful, slow death. So if you want a life, let's get into this. As I went through the 5th step with him, I said he took me through the 12 steps. I made a mistake. As I went through the 5th step with him, he got transferred to a new job and I got a new sponsor. And that sponsor said, we're going back to step 1. And I said, man, I'm already at step 5. Let's not do that. Well, we went back to step 1 and he took me through the 12 steps. And along that journey, he told me what it meant to stay sober. He taught me how to do it. He said, you will make the coffee. You will empty the ashtrays. You will be a greeter. You will pick people up for rides. Anything that gets Scott out of Scott is what you're going to do. I said, I don't want to do that. He says, of course you don't. You're selfish and self-centered. I said, yeah, that's me. So what do? I do what they say. He was my sponsor for a long time, and he just passed last year. And not to get emotional about it, but it was a huge impact to my life. He gave my wife away because her father had passed at our wedding. We were, 22 years ago, so I was 7 years sober. I was down having lunch with a good friend of mine that was sober, and we were meeting at a restaurant. I get a phone call from my wife. My wife was taking her youngest daughter to a birthday celebration for one of her little friends. Her daughter Hannah was 6.5, and her sister Shannon, my oldest daughter, was in the car, and somebody ran a red light and T-boned her car. My wife was the 3rd car back at this red light. When the light turned green as she was going through it, this person that was texting just hit our car. Our poor daughter Hannah suffered a traumatic brain injury. I get a phone call while sitting there with this guy that's in sobriety, and he says, look, I gotta go. They just said they took my daughter to the hospital and she's not breathing. I don't know what to do. I flew up to the hospital and I walked inside and I saw my one daughter who had been seriously hurt, and my wife who had a collapsed lung and some other stuff. And then my youngest daughter was up on the roof getting ready to be airlifted to another hospital. And I just cursing God and everything about life. And how can this be? I'm sober. I'm trying to help. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. And I walked downstairs and I walked outside, and who's standing outside but my sponsor and 8 other people. I don't know how they knew, but they lifted me up and they carried me. See, I'd done that for other people, right? when people are in need, I extended my hand and I sat with them and I tried to give them some of the strength I had. When I needed it, it was there for me. I won't take that story too far, other than my daughter wasn't supposed to make it 15 days. She lasted 14 years, 14 and a half years in a vegetative state. And the person that hit us had no insurance. So it was a long 14 and a half years taking care of our poor girl. But along that journey, we made so many friends, and the people in Alcoholics Anonymous, when I tell you they carried us, they carried us. There was times when it's tough to get out of bed and they would come over and, hey, let's go for a walk. Let's talk. Very fortunate to be surrounded by winners, people that care about other people that are in service, that are in action. When I moved to East Tennessee a couple of years ago, when I first met Glenn and I joined their home group, one of the first things he said to me is, I don't see your name on this calendar to chair. Well, it's not how we did it back in Florida. That's how we do it here. So I picked up chairing, and I picked up making coffee, and then I picked up sponsees up here. And I started to give back a little bit, and all of a sudden I fit right in. You know, we're told this lie when we're little, right? You can't pick your family, but you can pick your friends. You're my family, and I pick you. When I moved here, I got a new family. I didn't have to look for them. You guys were here waiting. When I walked through the door, they said, we know who you are. We got it. You're an alcoholic trying to stay sober. So when that time comes, and I have a sponsee that's going through this now, but when that time comes that life is just, it's giving you what you would say the worst possible thing that you can, like the accident that happened with us, and there's a whole other things. I've been sober for a little bit, so there's other things that have come up, but that's the biggest one. When that life comes and all of a sudden that stuff that you realize was poison, that alcohol you kept putting in your body to drown everything and make things better, starts to look like medicine again, like this is going to make it better. You got to have people in your corner. Because if you don't, man, life will take you back up. I have this crazy disease that tells me I don't have it. It says that I can have one more, that it'll be okay, that I was too young when I came in, that you're not done yet, right? It tries to tell me that, it tries to convince me that, it lies to me. What I know is if I stay around the winners and I stay around the program and I work with others and I surrender my will every day, every morning, I got a pretty good shot of convincing that thing that it's lying and holding it at bay. You know, I have a daily reprieve based on my spiritual condition. My spiritual condition is high because I stay around people. I stay around the winners. I stay around people that tell me that, Scott, you seem a little off today. What's going on? I think I told you guys I'm a car salesman, right? I can, for an hour a day when I walk into a meeting, I can tell you things are great when life is falling apart. I can put on that smile and let you know that, yeah, things are, really well, when they're not. But when I go up to someone and they look in my soul and they look in my eyes and they say, and Glenn says, hey, what's really going on? And all of a sudden tears start rolling down my face. I need that. Because by myself, I wouldn't be here. I'd be back out there living that life that I lived. I know, and this is just me, I know I have another relapse in me. I know I do. I know I have another drink. I don't know that I could make it back in. That scares me. My fear is not to get drunk again, but to live in that vicious circle of hell where I drink, I pass out, I know I'm doing wrong, I come to, I'm never going to do this again, ever. I swear this time. A couple hours later, I forget that. I'm drunk again. And it goes on and on and on, and I get worse and worse and worse, and I can't find my way back in. So I don't know how many meetings I need to do a week. I have a good friend that says this: if you want to know how many meetings you need to do and you're thinking you're doing too much, take one away a week. Keep subtracting one until you get drunk, and then add one because you took too many away. So for me, I try to do at least 7. Sometimes Glenn will tell you, sometimes it's 10. But I'm in constant contact with people in AA. I sponsor guys, and the guys that I sponsor, they check in on a daily basis. And it not only does it help me, but it gives me a chance to see where I was and where I could be. One of the greatest benefits I've been given in this program is not only finding my higher power, who I choose to call God, that saved my life, but it's the ability to look at something from somebody else's shoes. The ability to get out of Scott and stand from your side and look at it and say, wait, if I look at it like that, I'm doing wrong. I didn't learn that until I went through the steps, until I did a thorough 5th step and said, what's going on? Why do I act like this? And I found out it's not them. It's not their action. It's not, if you had my life, you'd do this. If you were married to my wife, if you had my job. It's not that. It was me. I'm a bad thinker. I was a bad drinker, and I'm a bad picker. I picked people that were just like me when I was out there. If you surround yourself with like-minded people, you don't seem so bad. You don't seem so low, right? I walk through the door of Alcoholics Anonymous, the first thing they say is you got to pick a sponsor. I'm a bad thinker, bad drinker, bad picker, and you want me to pick someone to save my life? This isn't going to work. Fortunately, I came in and I heard somebody sit across from me at a table that talked directly into my heart, into my soul, and told my story, and we looked nothing alike. And I said, I got it now. That's the guy I need to be with. That's the guy that I need to listen to. See, my friend Glenn says this a lot. Try not to compare your insides to their outsides. And I did that when I came in. I looked at other people and said, I remember sitting in a meeting 2 weeks sober, and this lady saying to me, you're not done. How can you be done? You haven't hit a bottom. You've got a watch on. You still are driving a car. You're not done. And as I was confused, this old timer grabbed me by the wrist and said, don't listen to her. If you're done, you're done. Surrender. So what I do every day, I ask God to help me in the morning. I thank him at night. I remember I'm just another bozo on the bus trying to stay sober, trying to get through this life, helping people and not harming. And it's no longer what Scott can get out of life. It's what can I contribute. And my higher power has a sense of humor. Just when I think I'm all done for the day, he gives me another phone call or another situation to extend my hand and help. I've adopted this philosophy over the 24 hours plus that I've been sober, that I'm now to the point where I'm retired, so I have a lot of time, and I kind of go through life like a cork on the sea. When somebody calls or reaches out and needs something, I say when and where. I'll be there. Somebody calls me in the morning and says, hey, do you have time this week to meet for coffee? I have time right now. Where are you? Not only does that help them, but boy, it helps me. I'm fortunate enough to be part of the hospital homebound and institutions where I go into the jails. And when we get to share with the inmates what's going on, and I get to see that the only difference between them and me is they got caught, but I could be right where they are if I picked up again. That's my mirror. That's me looking there and my higher power saying, hey, Scott, look, that's you. That's you if you pick up again. So I'm proud to say that I'm married to Lynn. I met her in Alcoholics Anonymous. We're getting ready to celebrate 30 years of sobriety. She's over 30 years. She's 30 years and a couple months sober. 29 years and a few months sober as well. We got together in AA. We work different programs. We have different beliefs. We go to meetings sometimes together, but we don't sit together. Because I know this. I can't attach my sobriety to anybody. If she was to go out, God forbid, I can't follow her. And same with me. If something happens to me that I pick up again, she can't follow me. When we had our tragic accident and all the other stuff, we made a pact. we both can't be down at the same time. If she's down, I lift her up. When I'm down, she lifts me up. And boy, does that work. You know, marriage, much like AA, it's a we program. It's a give and take. What can I do today to help my family life? And what can I do today to help my sobriety? How do I stay sober? I stay sober by doing this. When someone like my friend Glenn asks if you can speak, you don't say, no, let me check my calendar. You say, yeah, I'm in. Let me make sure I got to move a few things around, but I'm in. Sorry for logging on late. He called me and said, where are you? I actually just left the bank doing some year-end stuff, and it ran a little bit long, but that's another story. But here I am today in Afton, Tennessee. I don't, if you look at a map, I couldn't tell you where it is. It's over here in East Tennessee somewhere. I came out of a pretty large city in Florida, moved up here. It was a culture shock. Here's Glenn with the map. It's a culture shock to be here. I'm used to 8 to 10 meetings a day. They maybe have 8 meetings a week here, but that's okay. We're making some great changes. We just started a men's meeting. I'm proud to say I'm one of the founders of it. It's a do or die men's meeting on Tuesday nights. If you're over this way, please look me up. It's a great community. And I'll close with this. I got to say, I didn't know that I didn't have a good life. I thought things were good. I had some material things. On the outside, it looked great until I went home. At the end, I couldn't shave my face and look at myself in the mirror. I couldn't brush my teeth and look at myself in the mirror. I didn't like the person that was looking back at me. Today, I'm proud of who I am. I can look at myself. I can shake your hand and know that I'm doing well. That is only because of what Alcoholics Anonymous has given to me. And it was given to me freely by people just like you. So thank you for letting me share my story. Thank you for my sobriety, and God bless all of you. Being sober members of Alcoholics Anonymous is a big deal. So